Hello everyone, am I audible? Am I visible? Hello, hello. Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone. Myself Karuna Mishra, and I will be taking the weekly current analysis. The subjects of my subject expertise is in science and technology and environment and ecology. Uh, how I'm going to do this is that rather than going after every small news article, we'll pick up 3 to 4 major topics which were important in the current times, let's say in the last 1 week to 10 days, and we'll try to understand how it can be asked on different from different aspects, both from the prelims as well as means point of view. So something which was very important, it came in the 29th April in the Gazette. I have taken the source as your Gazette, which I will be expecting you also to follow. Gazette is a daily publication of current affairs by Edukemy, and Mr. Harsh Singh takes the daily analysis also every in the evening every day. But from that also, since I'm taking up those subjects, I will further scrutinize what more you can learn from that, how to prepare that particular subject from your prelims as well as mains point of view. So the first topic that I have taken today is this report. Hello Bhavani, hello Kriti, hello Nitish. I hope all of you are well, all of you are keeping yourselves safe. All right, the COVID cases are on a rise. Now I'll give you a small food for thought. Since COVID is on the rise again, and COVID is an RNA virus, can you tell me before the next session what is the difference between the RNA viruses as well as the DNA viruses? And is it a coincidence that majority of the pandemics that we have seen in the recent times are because of the RNA viruses? Will you do that? Let's see. How you. Yes. Hello, all of you. Hello, all of you. Hello, IAS Minister. So now coming to the first topic of today, the first topic of today is the Global Assessment Report on a disaster risk reduction, the Global Assessment Report on disaster risk assessment, which is called as GAR 2022. So GAR 2022, this is a report which was published by the UN agency, and it has given few of its findings. Especially it is talking about the occurrences of extreme climate events which will be seen in the coming times. So what do I understand by that? I already had a IPCC assessment report. Did anyone go through the IPCC assessment report? Do you know that it is an extremely important report? I took a session of current affairs, one of the live sessions. I had discussed also, you can check it out on the Edukemy's YouTube channel, about the IPCC report, the COP26 and the State Forest report. And in the IPCC report also, there were a lot of findings which talked about how the climate change is going to create issues. So according to this particular report, which is given by the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is UNDRR. So first of all, in prelims generally, you also get questions on which particular office or organization publishes so and so reports. First of all, the organization here is UNDRR. Then it releases this report on disaster risk reduction. It is releasing this report for the world, and it has given a warning that now you shall be facing up to 560 disasters every year by the year 2013. So what do I understand? The number of disasters have increased. The number of disasters have increased, and the frequency of disasters which will be much more higher in the coming time. So it has said that the number of disasters per year globally will increase from around 400, which was in the year 2015, to 560 by the year 2030. This is an increase of 40%. Imagine 40% of disasters, and this is during the Sendai Framework. Do we know about Sendai Framework? Have you heard of something called a Sendai Framework? The Sendai Framework for disaster management. It gives you different data. It is extremely important for your mains, especially not prelims, but for mains it is extremely important. And in prelims it has asked that which of these frameworks are for the disaster management, and in which the answer was Sendai. So it is important both for prelims and mains. And it says that the number of extreme temperature events per year will also be increasing, and based on the current trends will almost triple from 2001 to 2030. It is going to triple in number, which is my extreme temperature events. I think in India itself we are experiencing extreme heat. We are experiencing an early summer. Delhi already is 44 degrees Celsius, right? So we are already experiencing the heat waves at such an early onset of summer. The summer this year started much early. That is, by March you had the extreme summer like conditions, and this is also nothing but an output of the overall extreme events which will be related to the temperature. Now this is what the Sendai Framework is for. So to remember Sendai Framework, just remember it is based on 4 priorities. Priority one is understanding the disaster risks. So what do I understand by understanding the disaster risk? In this, I basically first make an assessment of global mortality. I make an assessment of global mortality. Then I make an assessment of number of people that shall be affected by different disasters globally. Then I also within this make a general assessment of the total effect on global population. This is the first priority. Whenever there is any disaster analysis, the first priority is to understand the disaster risk and the extent of the disaster risk. Then the second priority, priority two is strengthening the disaster risk governance to manage the disaster. So the first priority shall be to understand what negative effect the disaster is going to have on the global population, and then understanding that how the disaster risk governance can be strengthened in order to minimize the disaster or to mitigate the disaster. In that I have 2 areas where I need to keep a focus on. First is to analyze the direct economic loss and to have an understanding of the damage plus disruptions, damage as well as disruption that shall be caused by the disaster. I'll give you a small example. For example, if you have Uttarakhand region which is facing disaster very consecutively, you are facing almost every 3rd to 4th year, this region is having heavy rainfall, etc. So this not just causes the environmental damage, there is a damage to biodiversity, there is a damage to environment, but it is also creating economic loss. So you have to analyze the economic loss, plus it creates a disruption. For example, because of landslide, the transportation is halted. A lot of people do not are not able to have the connectivity that was there, and especially in areas which are hilly, etc., which have difficult terrain, there the disruption cause a big problem. Next is food security. Food security, for example, we have seen during the COVID times. During the COVID times, the importance of climate resilient agriculture, it is not just to make sure that each one gets enough food, but also we saw that whenever there is a disruption of movement, every city, every region should have enough food so that it does not create food crisis. There were food crises not just in India, though India managed it very well, but throughout the world in many areas you had very severe food crisis. So that is what the disaster, damage and disruption means, the disruption in day-to-day life. Then of course it shall not have it shall have a direct economic implication also, and that analysis is also extremely important. Then you have to see that the strategies both at the national as well as local level. Third priority is one, to first understand the strategies or make proper strategies both at the national as well as local level for the disaster risk reduction. And then ultimately the international cooperation, especially for developing countries, least developed countries, small island nations, etc. should be the priorities. Apart from that, as the last priority, you should also have the hazard warning systems, also called as early hazard warning systems. As well as the proper assessment mechanism for analyzing the overall damage that is caused due to a particular environmental hazard. So as you see that the tsunami alert system that is developed by India not just helps in India but also helps the other countries in that region. So now when it comes to the measures that we value, these are extremely important notes. If you want, you can take the screenshot of this. You can find it in the Gazette as well, and it is we have to move away from finding short-term goals. The short-term goals are in order to somehow combat the situation in the current scenario. You have to find a sustainable method of combating the disasters. You have to understand the climate change is real. The global warming is here to stay. Ipcc 6th assessment report has also said that no matter what we would have done, even in the best of the circumstances, the global temperature rise beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius was to happen. So if you are already knowing that this is the reality, you need to make long-term plans for that. This is what it is saying. So it is by the proper data collection. And this shall help not just in learning but with better decision making as well. Then you should also design the systems, as it is set here, of how human minds make decisions about the risk, and how it should be not based on short-term thinking. There should be proper algorithms, there should be scientific methods which should be involved even in the decision making of these kind of systems, which are meant for mitigation of the disaster. So innovation and adjustment should be required. Climate resilient agriculture is something that we know is of the priority, and we should start working on it, acting on it as soon as possible. Risk based insurances, economic incentives, etc. should be strengthened, and this should also help in accelerating the risk reduction. Now coming to the governance as well as the finance systems. The governance as well as the finance systems. For example, most important thing is you have to communicate the risk. You have to communicate the risk with the concerned parties, the important organizations which are involved and which can help in combating it. Then the modern technology. The modern technology should be promoted, and it should be used as a way of finding solution to these risks. Then the education, advocacy, and development of the scientific society. In this phase, you have to understand it took us years to make people realize that climate change is here to stay, and it is going to create a permanent problem for the world. So this also is important, that each one, maybe in the form of school curriculum, in the form of college curriculum, you should make policy makers, the students, the society, all of them a party to make the overall disaster less disastrous for the society, and the mitigation. Investment should be done on the communication, the risk communication. There should be informed and transparent decision making, and citizens should have a proper transparency about it. And people's perception and cognitive biases are important. So what does Sendai Framework urges? It urges, you can go through this, it urges conventional expert driven command and controlled risk reduction as well as dialogue with multiple stakeholders, especially the people who are at risk. So what am I understanding with all this is that there was a report which came out. From that report, I understood that there will be more than 40% of the extreme climate events that are going to take place. There are going to be more occurrences of droughts, that is to the tune of more than 30% and above. And then I understood about a framework which is called as the Sendai Framework, and what are the different postulates or different priority areas which are from the Sendai Framework. How will I use it? In my prelims, I need to know which is the organization which gives the report, what are the major findings, what are the 4 priorities according to the Sendai Framework, because it is the most important disaster related framework. And 4th, what are the measures that can be taken by India? What are the measures that can be taken by India in order to combat the disaster? Alright, so this is how you have to prepare topics like these. These are the barriers as well as these are the incentives which are part of the overall risk communication. As you can see, the barriers are that the political leaders may get more support for responding to crisis because it gains more eyeballs. I'll tell you an example. Rather than building a system which will reduce flood, if you see a politician which is running around during the flood giving out food packets, etc., it is more appealing to the eyes, and hence the politicians might be driven for having a good public perception for methods like this. Then the communication within the different government systems, across the systems, can also be a issue. Lack of clarity as to who is responsible for what. I think this is one of the biggest problems. This is my area of expertise. This is your area. This is one of the biggest problem when it comes to governance. So that can also be there. Private developers may flout many of the risk related legislations, risk related rules and regulation. MSMEs may not have the resources, the right resources. Academic experts might fear the liability of reputation if they give a wrong signal. See, you have to understand the academics also face a lot of criticism if any of their warnings do not turn out to be true. It is more or less like you were not feeling well, you went and got your test done, and I don't know, but is it human tendency that if you turn out to be fine, extremely fine, and all the test reports are normal, you kind of feel sad because you got all the tests done and nothing was found. So something like that. So that is also a concern here. Therefore, the academy also keeps a step back on this. Then, of course, media programs, etc., are involved. The incentives involved here, that the government officials who communicate about the risk can get the positive outlook. The scientist and advisory committee will also add to the credibility of the government. Then the community dialogue and expert advices, they will help in creating a proper a collective decision. Then regulatory incentives may include business and the government responsible and the various stakeholders to take up their share of liability here. And insurance, buildings, etc., academia, disaster risk is ultimately linked to people's everyday life. So if we have a proper system, then we can create a healthy system for people to survive. Are you getting a certain idea how to handle these kind of current affairs? You got a news which was about a report, then you make this proper analysis of it, and then whether for prelims or for mains or to use it as a case study, you can also involve case studies here. You get so many case studies through Gazette also and elsewhere also, and then you have a ready 10 to 15 marker question for your mains and the different angles or aspects which can be asked in your prelims. Is it clear? We'll move on to the next topic, again having a detailed analysis, which is on Gagan. Now, can anyone tell me what is Gagan exactly and how is Gagan different from Navik? What is Gagan and how is Gagan different from Navik? Alright, so Navik is something which India developed as its own GPS system. So as its own GPS system, whereas Gagan is basically created by Airport Authority of India along with ISRO to help in the airports and aircrafts for better navigation, for more precise navigation. It is not a replacement to GPS. First of all, it is not replacement to GPS, but it will only aid the GPS system. So Gagan is, why are we studying about Gagan? Because recently Indigo has conducting a landing in a very small place called Kishangarh. Kishangarh is very close to Ajmer. Kishangarh is known for its marble mines and for marble work. And there, using the indigenously developed Gagan system, the aircraft has done the landing. So with this, India has joined US, Japan and Europe, and these are the other countries which have their own satellite based augmentation system, which is called as SBAS. What has to be understood here is that it is an augmentation system. It is not a positioning system, it is an augmentation system. And what do I mean by that? It basically means that it will further augment or further make the precision better of my positioning system. So GPS is that. When I talk about Navik is a proper regional navigation system. It is not global navigation system. It is a regional navigation system which has range only up to 1500 kilometers from the boundary of of India. So from the boundaries of India up to 1500 kilometers, I have Navik, which is a positioning system, although it is not yet developed enough to be used as a proper navigation system. And Gagan is a augmentation system. So SBAS is a navigation system which builds the global navigation satellite systems and adds to the accuracy of these navigation tools. Again, it is a system of satellites and ground stations that provide GPS signal correction. So it is providing GPS signal correction. It is making the overall signal better. It is correcting it, but not providing the services of the navigation. Services of the navigation. All right. So this is how it basically operates. I've taken it from the newspaper itself. Now here I have the ground stations, and then I have these satellites. And it has been developed by, first of all, very important, Airport Authority of India plus ISRO, by a budget of 774 crores up to for 15 years, and this will benefit from the 50 operational airports. Most importantly, Gagan system will be beneficial for airports which are not just in tier 1 cities or tier 1 airports, but tier 2 and tier 3 airports as well, and will provide accuracy and shall provide accuracy. It enhances the capacity of airspace by reducing the separation between aircraft. Very important. It reduces the overall separation between the aircraft. Hence, you can use the airspace better. It augments the GPS signal over India and landmass, Bay of Bengal, Southeast Asia, Middle East up to Africa. And it streamlines the airline operators and increases the air safety and fuel efficiency. Please note these three major points down. So this is exactly precisely what we have discussed so far. These are the different airports, which is the Delhi. I have the ground stations which are at Delhi, Guwahati, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Trivandrum, Bangalore, Jammu and Port Blair, which shall provide the necessary augmentation and the working it shall provide the lateral as well as vertical guidance. For the aircraft which is approaching for landing. Now this is more important area, that apart from the airlines, the Gagan can also be used for different other areas, such as for intelligent transportation, for maritime, highways, railways, by security agencies, telecom, etc. So I've got my airways or airlines. Then I have smart transportation network. Then I have maritime, highways, railways, security agencies, as well as telecom. These are the other areas which can benefit from the Gagan system. Does anyone have any doubt in this? All right. Now coming to another important technology that was in news, that was the green hydrogen technology. The Union Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, had declared that India shall become one of the leading producers of green hydrogen fuel cell as the major green energy and replacement for the conventional fuels. You have to understand, in the recent times, the dependence on lithium ion battery and semiconductors have been in news. So of course semiconductors are still there, and you still are not able to find a replacement for that. And for India, China is the biggest country which exports the fabricated semiconductors, and not just for India, for the world. And if China monopolizes the fabrication of semiconductors, then it is a concern, especially for the self-reliance. So that is one area that you have to keep in mind. So another area is the fuel cell, that is lithium ion. Again, the lithium ion batteries, China has a big share in the market for that, and green hydrogen fuel can be a replacement for that. So green hydrogen fuel, you have to learn, or can be used for prelims under these heads. For example, what is exactly green hydrogen? How it is a good source of renewable energy? What is FAME 2 scheme? FAME 2 scheme, and PLI scheme which basically incentivizes the different startups, or it is a incentive by the government for the different industries. And then EV 30 at 30 campaign, that is for promoting electric vehicles by 2030. This is a campaign that has been taken, so it is extremely important from their point of view. So what exactly is FCEV? You will find this term again and again. So in FCEV stands for fuel cell electric vehicle, which is powered by hydrogen. So here hydrogen will act as the fuel, and FCEV is that, and it is the best zero emission solution. Why it is the best zero emission solution? Because it does not have any other emission apart from water. It does not have any exhaust pipe emissions such as the oxides of nitrogen, sulfur, carbon monoxide, etc. And it is extremely environment friendly. No tailpipe emissions. What exactly are tailpipe emissions? These are the emissions of gases or radiations into the atmosphere from the tailpipe. So it has zero tailpipe emissions and only has water. Now what is green hydrogen? How it is generated? It is generated from renewable energy and abundantly available biomass. It is generated from biomass, and it also involves introduction as well as adoption of technology to tap into green hydrogen's potential to provide clean and affordable energy in the future. Now if you remember, at COP26 the Prime Minister of India had promised that India shall have 500 gigawatt of energy from the renewable sources. Our emission intensity shall be reduced by 45% by the year 2030. We will also increase the share of renewable energy in the overall energy basket. So this is that initiative. On a different note, in the last week only, there was a village called as Palli in Jammu. It is in the Samba district, which is my border district, and it has now become a carbon neutral village because of the solar power plant. It is again to achieve the different promises that India has made globally. So you can use it as a case study. You should remember this name also, because India is doing a lot of investment. In fact, Jammu and Kashmir is a target union territory right now for India to infuse investment, and a renewable source of energy will not just help in the overall energy independence for the union territory, but will also help in achieving the goals that India has set for itself. So remember Palli in Jammu for solar energy. Now coming back to our hydrogen energy. So basically I am pushing the electrical vehicles for the global climate agenda, which was established under my Paris Agreement to reduce the overall carbon emissions. Then global electric mobility, it is also a revolution for the rapid growth of electric vehicle update. Right now only 3% of the total vehicles in India are EV vehicles or electric vehicles, but we need to increase their share. Second, the battery cost and the performance efficiencies. These are also the reasons which are responsible for the growth of electric vehicles, because the battery cost in the lithium ion batteries is very high, which is a concern, and India itself is in a dire need for a transportation revolution. We need to change the way we have our transportation, and India needs to take steps on it. What are the possible challenges to achieve this? The possible challenges will be the consumer related issues. You do not have charging stations. One more thing, you have whenever there is a new technology, anyone have heard of the Ola bikes? Literally there is a video of a man pouring petrol and burning of Ola bikes. Then there is a video of in a truck the electric bikes actually catch fire in the broad daylight. So there is a concern with the consumer also, that how much infrastructure is ready for introducing electric vehicles, and whenever there is a backfire for a new technology like that, to gain the trust of the consumer becomes a big issue. So that is an issue. Of course, lack of charging station makes it difficult for the consumer, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 and the suburban hamlets. Then you have the policy challenges. You do not have a proper policy yet. It is a very high capital intensive sector and it requires a long term planning. So that is what the government has to work on. And then of course the lack of technology and skilled labor. India still is technologically deficient when it comes to my electric vehicle segment, and the skilled labor is also missing. So that is where India has to work, and unavailability of materials for domestic production. It does not even have the reserves of lithium and cobalt, which are very much important for battery production. Again, lithium and cobalt, you do not have the reserves for that, and of course dependence on other countries for the import of lithium ion batteries is another obstacle which is hindering India in becoming completely self-reliant in the battery manufacturing. So I got a news which was about the hydrogen fuel cell as a clean source of energy, and then I analyzed it from the multiple angles as to how I can use it, what are the technological challenges, what are the benefits, and etc. Other news which were there recently was about the light combat aircraft Tejas. Light combat aircraft Tejas is an indigenously produced aircraft, and it has cleared multiple tests. It is already part of your squadron, and because of its one, high maneuverability, second, it's very lightweight, third, this particular aircraft has an advantage of the surprise element, that is it does not get detected easily and the enemy does not get the necessary response time, etc. makes it a very important segment when it comes to the defense of India, especially air defense of India. Other small news that you would have come across is that India has now produced the bricks which can be used for construction on the lunar surface by taking the material or soil from the lunar surface and fixing it, or using guar gum instead of cement for making these bricks for creating infrastructure in the lunar surface in the future. So these are some of the news, but I would want you to have a more comprehensive idea on the major issues, and these small news should be like some small notes in your notebooks. So next week also I'll be coming with the important topics of not just current affairs but of also environment, and I request you to ask me any issues that you have from the recent current areas that you have come across or the news that you have come across, and we can have a discussion. All right, so till then I'll see you again, and have a very good day, and prepare well, and all the best for your exam. Thank you so much.